Sheet metal step 3.15, volume damper setup. Once you're in the data file, click the volume dampers page, and you'll see that you are taken to the rectangular volume damper setup page. At the top, you'll see that there's 4 tabs: blade, handle, bearing, and bar, and you'll need to visit each of those pages and verify that they are set up. The labor is set up per length of blade. 0.13 is carried down through 24 inches in length, and then the labor grows as the length grows. You can dictate what the gauge is going to be, and you can also dictate what the maximum blade length will be, as well as the maximum blade height. Once a set of volume dampers would go over 12 inches, it would then put in 2 blades. Going to the Handle tab, you can see that you can put in a list of 22 different handles that you would like used, and the material cost for each of these handles, as well as the labor hours to install them. By going to the bearing, you can insert what your standard bearings are going to be, material costs, and labor hours. Click on the bar, and you'll see that you can put in a description for the bar or the rod that's going to go through the center of the duct that the blade is actually going to be attached to. Material costs, labor hours, and maximum length can also be dictated. Returning back to the handle page, you'll see at the bottom of the notes page there is a per handle setup. When you click this button, you'll be taken to another page where you can say per handle what type of bearing and bar are going to be allowed, as well as which are going to be the defaults for said handle. Going back to handles, you can now click at the bottom and go to the round volume dampers, and you'll have the same similar setup pages for each of these. Per diameter labor to manufacture them, what the minimum gauge allowed to manufacture one is, and then the default gauge. In this case, it's 2 gauges heavier than the default fitting gauge. Maximum blade diameter is 90 inches. Again, you have the same handle with a per handle setup page, bearing, and bar. And oval volume dampers are set up in the same similar way. To use the volume dampers in the takeoff screen, you simply select them from the palette of icons, and then you'll see your handle, bearing, and bar options. Here is an example. Go back to the menu, exit out of the data file, return to the main menu, the job file, and edit one of your zones. You can then select the volume damper from the volume damper icon in the rectangular palette. You'll see that it comes up at standard dimensions, and the default handle, bearing, and rod have been brought up for you. By changing these drop-down menus, you can change them and select the ones that you wish to use for this particular application. Returning back to the job file, main menu, setup menu, and then back into the data file, and returning to the volume damper setup. You can see that to change those defaults, we would go to the handle and the per handle setup, and we would select which defaults we would like to be used with those handles. This concludes the walkthrough of the volume damper setup page.